What's good everyone, it's your boy Jinsolo. Welcome to another Pokemon Go video. Mewtwo month is officially kicking off. I want to talk about Mewtwo as well as the future of EX raids. I know this is a topic that I've been covering for a long time, but I really think there's a lot of stuff that we could discuss here when it comes to Mewtwo and as well as Deoxys. Now of course when Niantic announced Mewtwo would be the Ultra Unlock, it was kind of a mixed bag. Some players were really happy about it, other players were really upset about it, mainly because they felt like the Mewtwo's that they got from EX raids weren't exclusive anymore. But regardless of what you think about it, I think overall the next month of raiding is going to be extremely intense. I mean, if you think about it, this summer we've had 3 months of Regis, and the Regi trio, no matter how much you might like them or how iconic they are, they're not necessarily relevant in terms of the meta, whereas Mewtwo is still extremely relevant, so a lot of players are going to want to get really high IV Mewtwo's as opposed to really high IV Regis. So this is a really nice addition to the raiding scene. I mean, just by my own personal experiences this summer, I did probably the least amount of raiding within a 3-month period of time compared to when, let's say, like the Weather Trio came out, or even when the Legendary Birds had their first run. So to cap it all off with Mewtwo at the end of the summer, I think that's really great, especially because Gen 4 is just around the corner. So we do need a really nice raid boss to kind of lead us into the next generation. And of course with Gen 2 going into Gen 3, we had the 3 Legendary Beasts, and that was a lot of momentum going into Gen 3 Legendaries. So having Mewtwo month right before Gen 4 is really great for Niantic because it builds a lot of that raiding momentum going into the new legendaries that are coming in Gen 4. Now when it comes to strategy, Mewtwo is pretty simple. He's basically a pure psychic type legendary Pokemon, so that means that your dark types and your ghost types are really going to shine. The most ideal team to bring into a Mewtwo, unless of course it has Focus Blast, is a full team of 6 Tyrannitars with Bite and Crunch. And if it does happen to have Focus Blast, then that's when you want to bring out your Gengars, your Umbreons, and anything else that will not be affected by Focus Blast, because of course Tyranitar is also a rock type, and rock types are weak against fighting types, which is what Focus Blast is. I actually found that Gyarados with Bite and Crunch is also a really nice Pokemon to use against Mewtwo if it has Focus Blast, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, unlike some of the legendaries that we've had in the past year, Mewtwo is not overly difficult to defeat. So even though it is one of the top tier Pokemon to have as an attacker, in terms of being a raid boss, it's not that difficult. I mean, if you've done any EX raids in the past year, you would know what I'm talking about. So as opposed to compared to like Lugia or Ho-Oh, or even any of the Weather Trio, except for Rayquaza, like, Mewtwo doesn't have that high of a defense stat, so you don't need as many trainers in order to defeat it. In fact, if you really want to go hardcore, you could actually possibly 2-man this boss. If you have 2 level 40 trainers with a full team of Tyrannitars with Bite and Crunch, then you could possibly duo it without any issues. And if you have 3 players with that kind of a setup, well, you're for sure going to be able to defeat him. But just to be safe, you will want to have maybe about 5 or 6 trainers per raid, because of course if you have any trainer that's under level 30, you may need to carry that player. So yeah, this is actually fantastic because it shows that Mewtwo is not a high demanding boss, so you don't need as many people in order to defeat it, which means players in rural areas are going to be able to defeat this boss a lot easier than past legendaries, so it's a really good thing. Now something that's important you have to keep in mind is that the Mewtwo's that you catch during this month of raiding is not going to be able to learn the moves Shadow Ball and Hyper Beam. So both of these moves are now officially legacy because Mewtwo may not be around after this month, and the reason for that is because we are finally going to be getting a new EX raid boss, presumably while Mewtwo month is going on. Now at the time that I'm recording this video, we haven't gotten a new EX raid pass wave in the last couple of weeks, and Niantic has already announced what the new EX raid boss is going to be. It is going to be Deoxys. More specifically, it's going to be Deoxys's normal form, so it looks like they're going to be slowly rolling out his various forms. Now I've talked about this before, but I really think this is a smart move from Niantic, especially with the release of a Mewtwo raiding month. If they were going to phase out Mewtwo from EX raids, it just made sense for them to give him a whole month of raiding so that players who do not have a Mewtwo up until now, they have their opportunity to get it now so that they could very freely go ahead and change the raid boss. But of course, Mewtwo is the most iconic legendary that we've ever had and we ever will have, so it is going to be sad to see him kind of leave leave the EX raid area of Pokemon Go, because it was really special to kind of have these special raids and have a really special Pokemon attached to it. I do agree that some players do think he should still be in EX raids or in any kind of special raid, but he is just a legendary. He's not mythical. But Deoxys is a battle mythical Pokemon. And what I mean by a battle mythical Pokemon, it's a mythical Pokemon that could actually have some kind of relevance in the meta. Because as special as Celebi and Mew are, they don't really have a place in the meta right now. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Deoxys has a place in the meta just yet, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. Deoxys, being that a mythical Pokemon that he is, it kind of makes sense for something as exclusive as EX raids. Having Mewtwo being an EX raid did make sense, don't get me wrong, but I actually think Mewtwo fits better as a super hard legendary boss. I actually think because of his iconic nature, it'd be better if he kind of appeared as a rare legendary raid boss, just and extremely difficult. Anyway, that's how I would kind of design it, but I'm not Niantic, and I'm definitely not going to say that I know everything when it comes to Pokemon Go. I just report the facts. So yeah, moving right along. So yeah, we're gonna be having Deoxys in EX raids, and Deoxys is an interesting case right now because, like I mentioned before, he has the potential to be relevant in the meta, but he just currently is not right now. Deoxys is more like a glass cannon. In fact, he's kind of like the most extreme glass cannon we're gonna get in Pokemon Go. I mean, if you look at his stats in the Game Master files, he has an extremely high attack stat. I think it's in the 500s, which is beyond any other Pokemon that's currently in the meta right now. The one caveat, however, is that Deoxys has an extremely low defense and HP stats. So in terms of having extremely high attack, that's great and all, but in terms of his defensive stats, he's going to be extremely squishy and practically useless. I mean, it's not just the stats with Deoxys that's kind of disappointing. You also have to consider that his signature move, Psycho Boost, is also in the game. And if you look at the way Psycho Boost is currently set up, it is an extremely weak move compared to other psychic type moves. I think it was actually said somewhere on Reddit or Twitter, but a Wobbuffet with Mirror Coat is actually going to be stronger than a Deoxys with Psycho Boost. So just think about that for a second. I really think it's in Niantic's best interest to buff up Deoxys. I really think Deoxys needs to be somewhat more relevant than it currently is, because if you really want players to do EX raids and be motivated to do EX raids, you have to reward them with a super powerful Pokemon, much like what Mewtwo was at the time he was released. Because of course, when EX raids kicked off last year and Mewtwo was the EX raid, Mewtwo was the most powerful legendary at that time. He was actually one of the top tier Pokemon that we were going to get for a long time. I think until Rayquaza came out, he was basically the #1 Pokemon in the game. And that fit for EX raids. Like I said, EX raids should award you with something really powerful and really special. So for Mewtwo at the time, it just made sense. And if they're going to be rolling in Deoxys, he has to at least match up with Mewtwo. So Niantic, if you really want to make EX raids something that a lot of players are going to be motivated to do, you have to buff up Deoxys. I actually think it's going to be funny because let's say they do end up buffing Deoxys, well, it's going to be kind of like the polar opposite of what it was like when Mewtwo was first released, because of course, when Mewtwo was first released as an EX raid, he was actually nerfed down. So I think it's funny for the next EX raid boss, they're going to buff him up. Oh, I mean, at least hopefully they will. So yeah, Niantic, if you want to cash in on EX raids, because of course, for anyone who doesn't know, EX raids is probably the biggest cash cow for Niantic, they really have to consider giving Deoxys a huge buff. I mean, we really can't wait until his attack form or his defense form. He really needs a buff right now with his normal form. Otherwise, you're going to kill that momentum and make EX raids something players are not going to be interested in doing. I mean, we saw that all summer with the Reggies. I mean, how disappointing would it be if EX raids are just simply there for a Pokedex entry, because it's not going to award a Pokemon that you're necessarily going to use. I think that's just silly in my opinion. But we really don't know how it's going to work. I think Deoxys will get a buff. That's my strongest prediction for the next couple of days. I really think if they want to sell Deoxys as a super awesome, powerful Pokemon that everyone must have, then they have to make sure the stats and the move match up with that. So I really think that's what's coming. So yeah, just to recap, Mewtwo month is kicking off today and I'm super excited about it. I'm going to try to fit in a couple Mewtwo raids here and there. Of course, I have a very busy life right now, so hopefully I'll make it work and catch a bunch of Mewtwo's. In my personal opinion, I am a little bit disappointed that Mewtwo will not be able to learn Shadow Ball because that is kind of like a cool thing with Mewtwo. But maybe they're gonna open up the doors to more signature moves, considering that Deoxys is going to have a signature move. Why can't we have Mewtwo with Psystrike? Of course, if they were to give Mewtwo Psystrike, they gotta buff up that move as well, because currently on paper, it is weaker than Psychic, which is just pitiful. So yeah, and then yeah, we are getting Deoxys as an EX raid, so any EX raid pass you're gonna get from this point on, it's gonna lead towards Deoxys. And of course, with EX raid passes, you can now share them with your ultra and best friends, which is awesome. Niantic, my goodness, this was a long time coming, so thank you, thank you, thank you. This is something we definitely needed for EX raids. So yeah, bros, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What you think about Mewtwo, what you think about Deoxys. I'm really excited for these next couple of weeks. Mewtwo is out as a legendary raid boss. How crazy is that? So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and I definitely think if you have not been raiding this whole summer because of the Reggies, now is the time to use up those raid passes, because we may not get Mewtwo for a very long time after this month, because of course now we have Deoxys as a EX raid boss. And if you want really cool pins like the ones that are on my hat, make sure you go out and check out Perfect League. I'll put a link in the description below. They have some really cool pins, and if you are going to buy some pins from them, make sure you use my promo code CountJinsula. You're gonna net yourself a 5% discount, which is something that you'll definitely need, because if you're like me, I'm gonna buy like 5-10 pins at a time. So yeah, go and check them out. And I do have this really cool contest going on right now on Twitter with a bunch of other trainers. Basically, if you complete a mission, you'll be entered to win one of 10 Pokemon Go Pluses. So if you do not have a Pokemon Go Plus yet, which is probably the most essential accessory for Pokemon Go, you need to go and check out that contest, because this is a great opportunity for you to get one of these. All you have to do is follow me on Twitter. I'll be posting about it frequently, so you can't really miss it. But yeah, go and follow me on Twitter and go check that out. That's gonna be it for this video, folks. I really hope you enjoyed it. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's have a discussion regarding Mewtwo and Deoxys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, smash that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. Once again, I am Count Jinsula, and I'll catch you all later.